In this video we shall review and discuss the whole variety of database types. Of course, our course is dedicated to relational databases, but there are a lot more, like card index, network and graph databases, hierarchical databases, OLAP, object-oriented or object-relational databases, deductive, NoSQL, and so on. And now we shall make a quick review of each of these types. Card index databases came into existence many years before computers did. Maybe you've seen in old movies some library with long boxes with cards. That was a card index database at that time. The main idea is to have some information ordered, usually alphabetically or by date or somehow. And to make the idea somehow more simple, let's look at the modern analogy. A single Excel spreadsheet or a single table in a relational database is a kind of card index. But of course, a modern database approach is much more complex than card index is, so it's a kind of history now. Network or graph databases usually help us with some geographical tasks. For instance, imagine we have several cities and we have some roads connecting those cities. And we have to find out the quickest or the cheapest road or something like that. So here network or graph databases will help us the best way possible. Of course, this is not the only task performed by that databases, but this one is the easiest to understand. We have a lot of software for such kind of databases, but nevertheless, databases of this type are not so common as relational, for instance. Hierarchical databases look rather similar to graph or network ones. The main idea here is to store some structure, some hierarchical structure, like a tree, for instance. Okay, this is just a tree, nothing more. And we have a lot of tree-based structures in our everyday life. Any file system, Active Directory, Windows registry, etc., etc., etc. There is a lot of things that are based on some tree approach. Relational databases are the most common. We have a lot of software for relational databases processing. And why is that so? Because relational databases and relational database management systems are the most unified, the most universal ones. They allow us to solve huge variety of problems. Maybe not the best way possible for each problem, but all those problems at once. So for decades, relational databases were the most common, the most widespread, and nothing tells us that the situation may somehow change in foreseeable future. OLAP approach is some kind of relational approach development. As you can see, most relational databases for now provide OLAP functionality. The main idea here is to calculate something based on a set of parameters. For instance, imagine we have several locations, several products categories, several periods in time, and we have to find out how many pens were sold in quarter 2 in Minsk, for instance. So this is the answer. Of course, this is just a simple task for demonstration, and OLAP databases may perform a lot of other tasks, but this just to become familiar with this approach, nothing more. Object-oriented or object-relational databases is a kind of combination between object-oriented programming and classical databases. So here we have some concepts of OOP allowing us to perform more tasks with the database in more ways. Some experts say that such combination of OOP in database may violate classical relational approach, and that's for real true. But nevertheless, there are some relational databases, like for instance Oracle, that support both relational and object-oriented approach. Deductive database help us to conclude additional facts based on some rules and already known stored facts. One can say that for today such approach was replaced by neural networks or something like that. Nevertheless, there is special software that allows us to perform such tasks. These databases are not really widespread, nevertheless they worth mentioning. NoSQL databases usually support a variety of data models, like key value storage, working with documents, with columns, with graphs or hierarchy, and so on. NoSQL approach was the answer to the situation that classical relational databases become too huge and lost the ability to solve several problems fast enough and good enough. And so some people decide, okay, we'll create our own approach, our own DBMS that can solve some special problem, some special task the best way possible. It is important to mention that usually to communicate with NoSQL DBMS, we do not use SQL language. We use something like JavaScript or other programming language, and there is no standard unified approach. So for each of these DBMSs you have to use something special, while in relational world the SQL is the single unified approach. And as long as our course is dedicated to relational databases, in the next video we shall review relational databases in more details.